Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, like always, Evil Eddie, tuning in from MyMMAnews.com. And if you're new to watching, if you're watching the video cast right now, you can always check out the podcast, and vice versa. If you're listening to the podcast, you can always go check out the video cast, and it's always at MyMMAnews.com. Guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter. I mean, we had a great weekend of fights, which we're going to recap in just a second here, and I thank everybody for tuning in to this recap. But I'm telling you, on fight night, that is where most of the fun is going down on Twitter. So make sure you guys follow me at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. You can always use hashtag PureEvilMMA to engage with me, or just tag me personally. If you're watching the fights and you want to see what I'm up to, or even result replays, find that at MyMMAnews.com. I'm always on there during a fight night, even if I'm at a fight night party, which happened this weekend at UFC 218, which is why you're getting this late recap here. So, all right, it's in the books now. UFC 218. We had a lot of questions going into this fight. Originally, the matchup was supposed to be Frankie Edgar versus Max Holloway, but unfortunately, Frankie Edgar had to pull out. And we've been seeing that a lot this year. But nonetheless, we've been having some great events. UFC 217 was one of the best cards, people were saying, ever. UFC 218, which just happened this weekend, with the build-up behind the Ultimate Fighter Season 28, I think it added a little bit of momentum going into Saturday night, which made it even more special, in my opinion. So I got to ask everybody, and we're going to get into it towards the end of the show. I'm going to ask everybody to be rating this out of 5 stars. And if you want to catch my Ultimate Fighter Season 26 finale recap, you can check it out at MyMMAnews.com, or right here on iTunes, YouTube, or Podbean, wherever you're catching the show right now. So let's jump into it. I mean, the main event. Was everybody expecting Max Holloway to win? Yes. Was I? I don't know. I still had some questions that I needed answers to, and I found it out Saturday night because Max Holloway looked like a champion as he was walking out to the octagon. I mean, just his whole presence. He fits into this role as a champion, and I was a little worried how the exchange was going to go of this belt. Was Max Holloway going to not only, one, bring exciting fights, because we can always count on that. I mean, he's on a 12-fight winning streak now. But the other part of it is if he can bring his own style and sort of fame to that featherweight division and make people want to tune in to watch the featherweights. Well, Max Holloway beats Jose Aldo, who had the belt originally for 10 years. For those of you guys who don't know, crossing over from the WEC over to the UFC, no one was able to beat him. And usually, Jose Aldo does better in the rematches. I mean, look at the Chad Mendes fight. Really close, but then the rematch, what happens there? He catches Chad Mendes with a beautifully timed knee and just drops him there. So I didn't know what to really expect here. I mean, I wouldn't have been upset if Max Holloway won, which he did, and I wouldn't have been too upset if Jose Aldo did. But at the same time, the way that I was left with a weird taste in my mouth after this fight. For those of you guys that did miss it, little spoiler alert, now that you already know who won. But Jose Aldo, going in that first round, started using a little bit more leg kicks. This was something that we haven't seen really in his last few fights, and something that I really wanted to see him bring to the table, because it's definitely one of his most dangerous weapons that he offers. And in that first fight against Max, he didn't use, I don't think, a single leg kick. So going into the first round of this rematch, he started using the leg kicks, but not that much. He was only throwing like 1 or 2, and they had some power behind him. I mean, you can tell that they're really hurting Max. But nonetheless, I gave Max Holloway the first and second round. Now, going into this fight, looking back at the first fight, I was a little worried if Aldo, and I thought he would be more veteran to this, if he was going to be able to just kind of ignore the emotional status of this, ignore the, the taunting of Max Holloway. And this goes back years where fighters, they can't deal with the crowd booing, or they can't deal with the pressure on them. And if somebody's getting taunted and really want to show up, be like, all right, I'm a man, I'm the champion, let's stand and bang. Not a smart idea. We can go all the way back to when Dan Severn pulled this technique on Frank Shamrock in their rematch. I mean, 25 minutes just circling in a circle. Dan Severn wasn't doing anything. The crowd started booing. Pressure started building up on Shamrock to do something. He makes a mistake. He gets taken down. He gets pounded out. And we all know the outcome of that fight. Dan Severn does win in that rematch. But Max Holloway, man, he just could not let it go. He could not let Max Holloway do that and kind of taunt him. Max Holloway was kind of using it to his advantage here because he was confident from the first fight that if they did trade, he was going to be the winner. And Jose Aldo going into this fight thought he would be a little smarter than that. And unfortunately, as we got into third round, deja vu to the first fight, you know, it was very frustrating because Jose Aldo, I thought he had some really great head movements there. Max Holloway was really struggling to try to hit him. And then Jose Aldo just kind of threw it away, in my opinion. He really just was just like, screw it. I didn't win the first or second round, in my opinion. Maybe that's what he was thinking. And just wanted to stand and bang with him. Do not stand and bang with Max Holloway. He is not going to back down from it, number one. Just look at just look at his buddy, Yancy Medeiros, who fought earlier in the night. And we're going to be getting up to that in a second here. I wanted to really start with that juiciness of the fight with this main event. What I learned here, though, is that Max Holloway has what it takes to be champion. And to take somebody out like Jose Aldo 2 times, my hat's off to him. That's my cliche right there. My hat's off to Max Holloway. He's definitely earned my respect. He's earned my respect for a long time now, but I was always questioning if he was going to be able to, once he got to that spot, the big stage, the big lights, was he going to be able to compete with the top of the top back to back to back to back? And he is. It's exactly what he's doing. But the real test right now, what I want to see, and some of you guys might have lost interest in it because Jose Aldo has beaten this guy twice. Frankie Edgar, who was originally supposed to be matched up with Max Holloway. Are you guys still interested in seeing that fight? Or do you want to see Max Holloway fight McGregor in a rematch? There was kind of like a cryptic tweet that went out this weekend after the fights. McGregor posted a picture of their first fight. McGregor's in the background wearing the glasses, and there's just a quote, "Man, I really miss those glasses." And you see Max Holloway sitting there with his team and with his head down. And, I mean, it's kind of a hint that maybe McGregor is pumped up for that. I mean, he said in the past that he needs to get motivated for fights. Max Holloway made a great point in his last couple of interviews here when asked about fighting Conor McGregor for a second time. And, of course, he wants it. That fight happened years ago. After he lost to McGregor, he just went on this crazy win streak, which gets us to where he is now in his career. So Max Holloway brought up a couple of really good points in his last couple of interviews when asked about this. He compares it to the NBA. You know, every year, everyone has a fair chance of making it to the championship game. And, you know, we see rematches all the time. No one complains. No one says, well, I beat them last year, so, you know, I don't have to play them again. We already know the result. And in any other sport, whether it's baseball, soccer, I mean, you can't play that card. It's been a couple of years now. If McGregor wants to return to 145, which I don't personally see him doing, you know, even Coach K was saying, I don't want to see Conor McGregor cut down to 145. We saw it with our own eyes, how Conor looked just depleted at 145 pounds, but yet he did a great job in that division. In my opinion, that's Conor's division. I don't know how well he's going to be doing at this lightweight with people like Khabib, Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez coming up like a shark. It's just a killer's division, man. So is that more of an open shot for Conor McGregor, Max Holloway? Is that the fight that you guys want to see? Or do you want to keep listening to Conor talk about Paulie Malignaggi? Max Holloway brought that up as well. So I think Max playing a really good hand here with kind of taunting McGregor. So now is McGregor going to play into his games of the old taunting, which we saw in the past with Jose Aldo?
The boy got lucky. That's it. He got very, very lucky. You might say he hit the lotto.
You know, and a final note on this, you know, what's next for Jose Aldo? You know, before I left the fight party, I was at a fight party this weekend for UFC 218, and of course, fights went late. I think they ended at like 1:30 in the morning. Everyone wanted to get up and go. I said, whoa, hold on a second, guys. You don't know what's about to happen. Maybe Jose, and I didn't think he was going to get interviewed because he was just knocked out. Joe Rogan is against that now. We saw that with Overeem and Stipe. He thought he tapped, blah, blah, blah. You guys can go back and look at the reasons why Joe doesn't want to interview fighters that have been knocked out. But I said, wait a second, because I felt like maybe Jose Aldo, the reason why he said, fuck it, let's stand and bang, I'm going to give it all I got, thought maybe that he was giving it up. Maybe he was going to leave his gloves inside the octagon. And I'm happy that that wasn't the case. Some of you say that maybe it is time for Aldo to hang it up. And like I say in the past, you'll never hear me say that. And here's another reason why I don't think he should do that. He beat Frankie Edgar at UFC 200. This is post-USADA era. So for the people out there that are saying, oh, since USADA came around, Jose Aldo hasn't been the same. He looked amazing against Frankie Edgar at UFC 200. We saw a motivated Jose Aldo. What we saw this weekend, though, I don't know. I mean, he could have went in there, won the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, depending. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he would have gassed out at that point. Maybe he would have landed a couple more really nice uppercuts on Max Holloway. He landed a beautiful uppercut on Max. And once Max tasted that, he was shaking his head and telling him to come on. But I knew it definitely rocked Max. I think that was in the 2nd round. There were some moments there for Aldo. So for the people out there that are just bashing him, man, of course I have so much respect for Max Holloway at this point. I think he's definitely rise to the occasion and has what it takes to defend this belt in the featherweight division and bring some excitement back to the division as well. So set in a new era here. The Aldo era is now past us. And now we go to the gold era with Max Blessed Holloway. And what about Max's son dabbing out in the post-fight interview? That was one of my favorite parts of the night, was seeing his son in his arms. I think I actually have a picture of it somewhere for you guys that are watching the video cast. But his son gets in his father's arms and dabs on him. Gotta love it, man. I think Max Holloway probably next, without a doubt. You want that money fight with Conor McGregor, but at the same time, I want to see him fight Frankie Edgar. That was originally supposed to go down in this main event. I think that's the only fight that you can make from this point forward, because there's a lot of options when it comes to Conor McGregor, and quite frank, I don't think he's going to be returning to 145 pounds anytime soon, if not ever again. Also, Pacquiao is calling him out. So who knows if Conor McGregor just going to say, screw MMA, I can make 10, if not 20 times more cash boxing these legends that are calling me out. So, and I would hate to see that. That would just be a smack in the face to all of us in the MMA world. But at the same time, these guys want to make money, and if the UFC's not paying out, not getting the matchups that are really going to shovel out the views and the money for these fighters, I wouldn't be surprised if Conor McGregor decides not to step back in the octagon. And what a poor time for Dana White to be going through this. They're trying to renegotiate with the Fox deal and getting lowballed with like $20 million. Or $200 million, excuse me. Originally, they were being paid $400 million. But now with the season Ultimate Fighter, not many views going on, and it had a great finale show. I mean, anyone that watched the finale show on Friday night was probably boosted in interest to check out the season. But at the same time, it's not bringing in the numbers that it used to. And, I don't know if people even tuned in on Friday night. There was just so many other fights going on, and it was a shame if people did miss that fight, because there were some great moments. Sugar Shane, Roxanne Modafferi losing the belt, but all-out war the entire night, finish after finish, armbar after armbar. If you guys want to check out my recap to that, like I said, check it out here on iTunes, Podbean, or YouTube, wherever you're checking out this episode of Pure Evil MMA. So what are your final thoughts here on Jose Aldo moving forward and Max Holloway? Let me know on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. All right, so getting into our co-main event. This was a fight that I think a lot of people picked as their #1 fight that they were most interested in seeing. We all had that question of, does Francis Ngannou have what it takes to compete with the #1 contenders in this division? And he really proved himself flawlessly without any hesitation of me saying that this guy is ready for a title fight. I'm kind of scared for Stipe. I'm not going to lie. When I saw that happen to Overeem this weekend, and if you guys didn't catch it, let me just recap it really quick. Coming out, Alistair Overeem, he wanted this fight with Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is doing whatever it takes at this point to get to that title. He's training over at the UFC gyms, the old LA boxing or whatever it used to be, day after day. Very new to the sport, too. This is a guy who was very new to MMA. And originally, I think he was going to do boxing, and then they were like, you know what? Let's do MMA. I think you have what it takes. And he's proven himself, man. He has definitely proven himself. And images of Dan Henderson here on Saturday night with how he just finished Overeem. So he goes out first round, and he straight up looks like Debo from Any Given Friday. Or not Any Given Friday. What the hell am I talking about? You just got knocked the fuck out. What fucking movie is that? Friday. What the hell movie is that? Why am I drawing the biggest blank with Ice Cube? But anyway, Francis Dingaan, man, goes in there with an amazing uppercut that lands flush on Alistair Overeem, and his neck was already back. Overeem was doing this really weird thing where he didn't look comfortable in there, first off. He went out there, kind of held on to Francis Ngannou. I don't know what his game plan was he trying to tire his arms out? But Francis Ngannou made distance, and then Overeem was doing these really weird head movements, just like really flailing himself around. And he got caught, man. He got caught fully extended with his neck back, and then Francis landed this beautiful uppercut. So Overeem's neck was already extended as far back as it could go, and it looked like he got Rockem Sokem Robot, where his neck, I got so nervous, my heart dropped, especially when I saw the replay. It looked like he may have snapped his neck. And if it wasn't for like those back muscles, those huge muscles that Overeem has back there, I don't know. That could have cushioned it. But if that happened to me, I'd probably be dead. If that happened to 95% of the people out there, I don't know, they would not be tweeting this out. So for those of you guys that are watching the video cast, you can see what I'm about to pull up. Unfortunately, you guys on the podcast can't. So Alistair Overeem, after that brutal knockout, I thought he'd end up immediately in the hospital, if not, the ER or something, ICU. But he tweets this out, and I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. So Alistair Overeem says, and I quote, "No damage and all healthy, thankfully. Unfortunately lost today, but props to Francis Ngannou. I got hit with an uppercut from hell, one of his specialties, which we knew were very dangerous. Some chill time now before back to the drawing board," and then he has a pair of praying hands. Now, Alistair Overeem, for those of you guys that also want to play that USADA card, saying that USADA, since they came in, Overeem hasn't been the same. I mean, we can see that. Overeem definitely has a different body structure than before USADA came through. But at the same time, he went on a little win streak not too long ago and was working his way up to that title fight, even rocked Stipe in that fight. There was some confusion there, but both guys got rocked there. And Stipe really trying to make a push back towards the top, gets that win, a couple of wins, and then gets masked up with Francis Ngannou, and it was just not Overeem's night. So I'm a little scared for Stipe Miocic here moving forward. I really am. I'm pumped up to see that. There were rumors of Stipe fighting Cain Velasquez next, but they're also being shut down by a lot of people out there, saying that fight isn't going to happen anytime soon, that Cain just isn't ready yet to return to the octagon. And anyone in this guy's way, Francis Ngannou, I mean, before we got to this moment where Francis Ngannou is taking out the #1 contenders, there were a lot of people out there that wanted to see Derek Lewis fight Francis. So is that a fight that still people want to see before the Stipe fight? Or screw it, Francis Ngannou deserves the title fight, just give it to him. Let Derek Lewis work his way up, and then they'll eventually meet somewhere down the road if Derek Lewis doesn't decide to retire in a couple more fights. But Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, they've been fighting a lot in the past 2 years and rising through this division, and adds a lot of spice, adds a lot of flavor to this division. I mean, there's a lot of older guys here, and we're seeing what these new guys can do. Post USADA era, if you look at Francis Ngannou, you wouldn't think that guy's all natural, but he is. He hasn't been popped, so he's looking like a legit Greek goddess or something, man. I am scared for Stipe Miocic, or you never know. Stipe can go in there and starch Francis Ngannou. It's MMA. And I saw the perfect meme for this. They pulled it out of Predator. They put a picture of Stipe Miocic's head on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then put Francis Ngannou's face on the Predator. And, of course, the famous quote from that movie, "If it bleeds, it can die." I thought that was a perfect meme. I want to see that fight before anything else. Give Francis Ngannou that title shot, or what's going to happen with Stipe. I haven't heard a single word, so we don't know where he stands with this. Maybe he did tweet something out. If he did, make sure to tag me on Twitter at evil_Eka. All right, so before this, we had Henry Cejudo versus Showtime Pettis' little brother, Sergio Pettis. Now, this was a fight to see who's going to be next for Mighty Mouse. This whole time with Pettis coming up, he's kind of distancing himself from the little brother picture of Showtime and really making a statement in the UFC of, his own person, so to say. He's winning fights, and people are wondering if he's going to be next for Mighty Mouse, if he's ready for Mighty Mouse. So they matched him up with Henry Cejudo, who's also kind of in that same boat where he came into the UFC, got drafted right away, picked up by the UFC, and, before that fight with Damasio Page, I think, right? Gets brought into the UFC, but a little too soon to give him that title fight. I mean, guy was an Olympic wrestler. Maybe it was just a little bit too soon for him. But since that loss to Mighty Mouse, you remember he did that season Ultimate Fighter with Joseph Benavidez. And Cejudo's been climbing. In his last fight, he got an amazing knockout, one of the first knockouts he's had in the UFC. And we were pretty excited to see what this fight was going to bring to the table between him and Pettis. Wasn't the most exciting fight that we saw on the night. Cejudo kind of pulled an Eddie Alvarez. Now, I'm not using Eddie Alvarez as tonight of an example, or the Saturday night Eddie Alvarez. I'm talking about an Eddie Alvarez when he came into the UFC, again, to try to rise to the top. He really just uses wrestling on Sergio Pettis. And just like Eddie Alvarez did to Pettis' older brother. Wasn't the most exciting fight. I gave pretty much every round to Cejudo. I mean, just taking it down to the mat and just smothering every single round. So the question next is Cejudo versus Mighty Mouse or TJ Dillashaw versus Mighty Mouse. Cejudo didn't sell me. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not that excited to see the rematch with Cejudo. I'd rather see TJ Dillashaw versus Mighty Mouse. This is something that we've been, dangling in front of our face, kind of been teasing us with. Mighty Mouse signed that dotted line, and Mighty Mouse even answered this weekend when a fan asked him during that little Metro PCS show that he did with Forrest and Cody No Love. He answered a fan's question that asked, what is it going to take for us to see you fight TJ Dillashaw? He said, if the money is right, UFC, Dana White, there you go. Give this man some money. If that's all it's going to take, get it done. He deserves it, man. After beating Anderson Silva's record of most title defenses, what does he have? 12 title defenses now. So, TJ Dillashaw, if he drops down, makes the weight. Remember, that's what Mighty Mouse was a little worried for. Is TJ going to make weight? He's a professional. I'm sure that he would make weight. I don't think it would be easy making the weight, but if the money's right, the motivation's right, I'm sure TJ Dillashaw is definitely going to make sure that he reaches that weight cutting. And it does scare me a little bit. Weight cutting is a scary situation there. But if TJ Dillashaw and his team think that he can make it, I trust him. That's the fight. Cejudo did not convince me to see that rematch. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I love Cejudo. I really wanted to see him get another knockout meet. I was even looking forward to Sergio, but I guess he's just not ready. He kind of fits in that Rose Namajunas category where he starts doing very well, wins a couple of fights, and unfortunately a setback against Cejudo isn't really losing you any brownie points because Cejudo is definitely on a roll here. He's an Olympic medal holder, and you can't dig at yourself too much about that. I think he's going to be able to go back into the gym and figure out what it's going to take to get to that next level, to be the #1 contender, to fight Mighty Mouse next. And if they match Cejudo against Mighty Mouse right now, I'd probably guess the same thing would happen. I mean, you can yell at me all you want, but that's maybe not as quick, but Mighty Mouse has really proved that he is on a different level here than a lot of the guys in this division. Who is it going to be to take this dude out? I don't know, but you got to put on better performances than what Henry Cejudo is. And I know that you guys are going to get pissed about me saying that, because who am I to say that, right? I mean, I'm talking shit about an Olympian, but at the same time, I'm not the only one that feels this way. So let me know what you think about this on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. All right, so moving forward now, guys, it was the fight that we all thought had Fight of the Year written all over it. Justin Gaethje versus Eddie Alvarez. Now, did it live up to the hype? Did it live up to your expectations? It definitely lived up to my expectations. Eddie Alvarez obviously did get the W, but it was any man's game at this point. Eddie Alvarez was about to drop. Go back, watch the replay. At this point in the fight, in the third round, both these guys were just absolutely drained. Eddie Alvarez did a great job with the body shots, really delivering the Eddie Alvarez that we've been wanting to see since coming to the UFC. He really brought out the old school Eddie Alvarez here, where he went into a training camp and he said it, not giving a fuck. And you got to do that against Justin Gaethje, man, because that's a kid that just comes out with his head down, pummels forward. Up to this point, I think Justin Gaethje was like 18-0 with like 15 wins by knockout. So Eddie Alvarez, man, can't really afford another loss in anyone's book. If he lost against this young up-and-comer, I think it would have done some big mental damage to Eddie Alvarez. And he really stood up and delivered the other night. Now, Eddie Alvarez was actually the underdog in this too, which I found really surprising. I found that really surprising. Eddie Alvarez, the way I foresaw this, is more of the veteran here, right? He's more of the veteran, he's been through the works. This was a Bellator versus World Series of Fighting championship. And it definitely delivered, man. Both these guys just went at it, just bit down, pushing forward. Eddie Alvarez, like I said, was landing some seriously hard body shots, but Justin Gaethje's landed so many brutal overhands and crazy hooks that Eddie Alvarez's cheek just blew up, almost looked like a chipmunk. Kind of reminded me of the Robbie Lawler fight with Rory McDonald. I mean, the entire side of his cheek was just so swole. Everyone thought that it was his mouth guard at first, but he spit it out, and we all realized that he just had a huge hematoma on his cheek. It did not look good. And this is why I say, at any moment, this fight could have both these guys could have dropped. It could have been a double knockout at this point. They were both exhausted, but at the same time, I'd give both these guys 100K. Fuck 50K. I'd give both these guys 100K for that fight, because they really stood in there and gave the fans what they really wanted. Didn't care if they were going to get knocked out. They went in there with no fear. They went in there. It was the violent side of the MMA world. It was the violent side of the sport. All night, really. All night. I mean, even Paul Felder, Yancey versus Cowboy. All fighters delivered on UFC 218. I mean, as we get to the end of the show, I'm going to ask you guys what was better, UFC 217 or UFC 218, combined with the hype and the build-up with momentum of The Ultimate Fighter. I'm not asking you to just pick UFC 218. I'm saying with that weekend combined, was that better than UFC 217? Because as I look back after the fight party that I was at, laying in bed, I was like, Francis Ngannou, that crazy uppercut, thought Alistair Overeem's neck was broken. Jose Aldo going in there and just saying, screw it, and just throwing down with Max Holloway. You go back, you look at the Cowboy versus Yancey fight, the Justin Gaethje versus Eddie Alvarez fight. I mean, all these guys really delivered. And here we were at the beginning of the year, as we found ourselves halfway through our MMA calendar. We're getting a little worried. We're like, 2017's been kind of a slow year, right? And I just kept saying, guys, we got some exciting cards coming up. Just wait. Just wait until we get to our end of the year show, and you're going to be surprised at some of the fights that we've even seen this year, but just kind of forgot about. End of this year calendar. I mean, as we get into December, it's December 4th right now, and there have been back-to-back events that have really delivered in my eyes. If it was your first time watching a fight for UFC 218, you might be a fan for life after seeing something like a card like that. Especially a fight like Justin Gaethje. Whoever is out there that was their first fight, they'll never forget that. I hope that happened. I hope that somebody tuned in. It was their first fight to see Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje and just fell in love with the sport, because those two really brought to the table what it takes to compete at an elite level and just did not give up. And they entertained, man. At the end of the day, these two guys both won. In my eyes, these two guys both won. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what your takeaway is this. Did you lose brownie points for Justin Gaethje here? Not me, man. I think both these guys deserve to have their hands raised. And a little foreshadowing here, when they were both coaching The Ultimate Fighter Season 26, the coaches challenge was a swimming contest. Both these guys had to swim like 10 laps or something like that, back and forth, 100 meters or something like that. I don't know about those small facts there, but the way it started, if you guys didn't catch it, you can go back and watch it on FS1 or Fight Pass. The coaches challenge starts out, Justin Gaethje's hot off the gun, right? Swimming like a madman, way ahead of Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez was smart though. Even though he was getting a little nervous, seeing Justin a little further ahead of him, he knew that it takes endurance and it takes really heart to just keep going once you get fatigued. And swimming, man, it is Like back in high school, the swimmers used to say to us football guys that were getting ready for the football games, saying, you guys don't know what hard practices are. Try swimming. And I'll tell you, we tried that out, just one practice of swimming. It works so many muscles in your bodies that you didn't even know you had. So, this was kind of foreshadowing for Eddie Alvarez. I mean, he swam before, allegedly. Justin Gaethje's looked like a fish out of water in my eyes, but he was doing pretty good, hot off the take. But a couple laps in, man, Justin Gaethje started getting really tired. Eddie Alvarez inched his way up, and then we saw this weekend here. So it was really foreshadowing. I think that Coach's Challenge really helped gear Eddie Alvarez up for this fight, and without that, we might have gotten a different product. I mean, I think it was kind of cool that we saw these two coach alongside each other. Didn't really have any beef throughout the season. Both guys knew what they signed up for here, and that was to deliver an amazing fight, and 100% did that. So the final question, the final thought on this is, will this be top 5 fight of the years? I think Justin Gaethje deserves 2 spots as we get to the end of the year for our end of the year show. And I'm going to be recruiting some of the guests. Last year we had on Bloody Elbows, Eddie Mercado. We had on Jay LaFleur. We had Cage Side Submissions. This year I've got a couple of surprises for you guys. So I cannot wait to get to that. And we're going to have some polls going out. So let me know what you guys think. Is this going to end up at the top 5 for Fight of the Year, Knockout of the Year? It just gets freaking balls to the wall Fight of the Year, in my opinion. This definitely deserves a spot in the top 5. All right, so previewing the rest of this card as we close out this recap here. Paul Felder gets the win via TKO. Could have been stopped a little bit sooner. I'm going to try to get him on this week. He was supposed to come on before the fights, but got caught up with some UFC media arrangements. But I'll shoot him a text later on today and see if he can come on to talk to you guys and answer some of your questions. Cowboy versus Yancy Medeiros. In this fight, Cowboy looked amazing, right? Both these guys looked amazing. All-out war, back and forth. Both guys were just dropping left and right. And at the end of the day, Yancy Medeiros rocks Cowboy. Early on in the fight, we thought he was going to finish Cowboy off. He does it later on in the fight. But both these guys, like I said, really brought things to the table, just like Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje. So both these guys are really winners in my eyes. Cowboy Oliveira, man, he is a tough son of a bee. And Yancy Medeiros, man, I picked against him, and I shouldn't have, because Yancy has been in this position before and has delivered it once again. So hats off to Yancy Medeiros. David Timur versus Close. Straight flush for David Timur. I was really excited for this fight because going into this, he just had that upset win over Lando Venata. His Muay Thai skills are really up there, and I was excited to see this, but he really just wasn't that active here. And Herb Dean almost charged him a point too early on, which I thought was a really weird thing, because even though he was backstepping, he was the only one really throwing anything at all. So I thought that was a little weird on Herb Dean's part. Herb Dean was just really having an off night. But as we found ourselves in round 3, both these guys really turned up, and David Timur gets the win. Moving forward, give this guy a ranked opponent. You have to give this guy a ranked opponent, in my eyes. Amanda Bobby Cooper getting the win over Angela Magana. But before that, I'm getting a little confused here. Courtney Casey versus Felice Herrig. Now, I did take the picture on the video cast. You guys can see it somewhere in the slideshow of these girls both giving each other the double birds. The only reason why I pointed and posted that picture here is just so you guys know, I think Felice answered this question perfectly when she was asked about it in the octagon. She's like, why did you do that? I mean, there's people out there that look at that and just think it's awful that a lot of people still don't have respect for our sport. They still think it's like a dog fight. They still compare our sport to dog fights, and just think it's too violent to put on TV. And when you see two girls in there acting that way, flicking each other off, you don't know what to think. But Felice Herrig answered this question perfectly. She said, we just get caught up in the moment. After the fight, they hugged it out. They gave each other respect. They knew that they both put on an exciting fight in their eyes, maybe not in everyone's eyes, but Felice Herrig comes out with the win and answered that question perfectly. They're in the heat of the moment. You get very emotional. You're asked to do something really crazy. You're asked to fight. how many people out there go to work to fight? I mean, you're asking somebody to do something outside of their comfort zone. So, of course, they're going to get emotional. Of course, you might see things like that, you know, two fighters flicking each other off or taunting. Felice Herrig, man, I think she answered that perfectly, saying, you get caught up, and at the end of the day, we have so much respect for our opponents once that fight is over. And, you know, hats off to Courtney Casey and Felice Herrig. But Felice Herrig on a roll. I mean, this is a girl that took 2 years off after she lost to Paige Van Zandt, got her mind right, and came back to fight inside the octagon and just been killing bitches left and right. Courtney Casey is a tough girl. Even Joe Rogan was picking Courtney Casey to win it. It seemed like he was being a little biased at the beginning. Not really a fan of how Felice was really limiting her movements there. Just they stayed in one spot the entire night. And Felice Herrig showed her boxing skills off against Courtney Casey and was just able to put together some nice combos and some really nice overhands, some takedowns. So Felice Herrig moving forward, I think she's like ranked 8th or 9th. She's climbing her way back up this division. And now that this whole new weight division is opening up, you're going to see a lot more girls, you know, dropping out of that division and going to the new one. So Amanda Bobby Cooper defeats Angela Magana by TKO. There was a nip slip in this fight for those of you guys out there that enjoy stuff like that. Maybe not your favorite nip slip of them all, but it happens. And that was Angela Magana's choice to wear something like that. UFC just passed a thing with Reebok where you can wear a t-shirt. Like you saw at Karate Hot, you can wear a t-shirt. You don't have to wear basically a swimsuit. It was Angela Magana's choice, so I feel bad when that happens. Of course, that's messing up the way you're thinking about the fight. You're worried that all these people saw your private parts. But then again, there's going to be people saying this. Well, Ed, have you seen her Instagram? Have you seen the photos that she posts? We've seen her bare ass before. We've seen leaked photos of Angela Magana. So there were even people saying that she planned on that to happen, which I don't think she meant, because after the fight, she looked really upset. I mean, now she's lost numerous fights in a row. I think, what is it, 6 fights in a row now that she's lost. It's just a sad thing. Maybe she'll get that pink slip. I don't know, but she was kind of pushing for that main event, right? She was pushing for that main event, thought she could get a main event on maybe Fight Pass, I guess. But if you're on a 6-fight losing streak, you're asking for a little bit too much. A win over Amanda Bobby Cooper would have been awesome for Magana, but ABC Nation, baby, right? ABC Nation moving forward. Get that girl fight closer to more ranked opponents here. I think that she definitely proved herself against Magana. You can give her some tougher competition here. What did you guys think of the night? I'm going to ask you to rate it. I'm going to rate it 5 out of 5 stars. I think UFC 218 definitely delivered. And if we combine it, if we combined Ultimate Fighter Season 26 finale with UFC 218, it's right up there with UFC 217. For those of you guys that didn't catch UFC 217, it was a night of all finishes, just brutal. 3 champions lose their belts. You got Rose Namajunas beating Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You got Cody Nolov losing his belt to TJ Dillashaw in a very exciting first round where TJ was almost finished. And then the main event, GSP returning after 4 years and beating Michael Bisping via submission. Just the entire night was just all finishes. But I don't know if it's still just because it's fresh in my head. But, you know, UFC 218, even on its own, it's up there, man. It's going to be up there on our top list of best events of the year as we march towards our end of the year show. So let me know what you guys thought about this card. Let me know what you rate it on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. I mean, fight after fight, man. I mean, look at all the underdogs that won. Let's see. Only one underdog won, which is Eddie Alvarez, which I was really surprised. Eddie Alvarez was even an underdog here. So moving forward, we got Cub Swanson versus T-City. That is in the near future. So we're going to be we're going to be gearing up for that fight, and could be another Fight of the Year contender there. Who knows? I mean, last year, Cub Swanson was at the top of the list with the Korean Superboy fight. Cub Swanson could be in the runnings again with this one, man, because T-City, you know, his last couple of fights, I mean, he beat the Carpenter Clay Guida, where Clay Guida was rocking him for 2 rounds, even throughout the third. And as we got to the end, Clay Guida got a little bit too confident and threw the fight away and got finished by T-City. And T-City has pulled this out of the bag more than just once. T-City has now been in the situation where he's been losing the past 3 fights and somehow comes back in the 3rd round to get the finish. I just never seen anything like it. I'm excited for this fight against Cub Swanson, because if he pulls it off against Cub, I'm sold. But if Cub Swanson gets past Brian Ortega, does it really mean much? I mean, you're getting past a young gun. So Cub Swanson could be next in line after Frankie Edgar. Some people even want to see Cub Swanson fight Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway this weekend over Jose Aldo. There's a case for it. There's an argument there, but that wasn't the case. And with a win over T-City, maybe you're a little bit closer. I mean, I don't know how many points you're going to be really winning from that. I mean, it matters how he does it. If it's another fight of the year contender, fuck, I'm sold. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you got on Twitter. And make sure you're following me on Facebook and Instagram as well. I make it really easy for everybody. It's at Pure Evil MMA. That's PureEvil MMA. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here on the recap show. Like I said, if you want to check out the Tough 26 finale recap, check it out here on iTunes, Podbean, or YouTube. Or if you're listening to the podcast or watching the video cast, you can check out all the content right here, mymmanews.com, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week, guys. We got some more exciting fights as we get towards the end of the year, and it's going out with a bang with UFC 219. Holly Holm versus Chris Cyborg. All right, guys, behave yourselves.